Billionaire mocks the janitor, but when he plays the piano, the incredible truth is revealed. Jack Henderson, a titan of Silicon Valley, relished his power and prestige, cushioned in the sleek glass walls of his empire. Today, he stood among young innovators, brandishing his cocktail like a trophy, drowning in the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. Yet within him brewed an unease, an unyielding need to feel superior. The prestigious gala celebrated achievements he had engineered while belittling the world beneath him. And there, clear as day, was Tom, the janitor, a visible reminder of Jack's disdain. Jack spotted Tom's scuffed shoes against the polished floor, an eyesore in his elegant surroundings. He felt a twinge of amusement. What could a man who scrubbed toilets possibly contribute to this high-stakes collectiveness of brilliant minds? As the evening unfolded, the piano, sat elegantly in the corner, beckoned. An invitation to showcase talent. He laughed under his breath when he saw Tom approach it, fully expecting an awkward fumbling. The crowd hushed, leaving a weighty silence that stretched awkwardly through the air. Jack smirked at the thought of how pitiful this performance would be. But then, Tom's fingers danced across the keys, unleashing a soulful melody that pierced Jack's ego. Each note painted a deeply personal narrative, weaving tales of anguish and dreams lost. Jack's laughter evaporated as he found himself captivated by the haunting beauty that flowed from the piano. Memories stirred within him, clashing against his thoughts. What was this man hiding under layers of dust and polish? Jack's chest tightened, an unnerving realization dawning on him as fragments of Tom's former life, a passed-over talent, surfaced. What had Jack sacrificed to reach this throne? Had he truly earned it, or was it merely luck and privilege that placed him above others? As Tom played, Jack's mind roared with uncertainty. He could feel the tension in his muscles, a pressure building that impeded his breath. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the piece swelled, Jack's thoughts spiraled. Here was a man who had faced adversity, who had sacrificed his own dreams for survival while he sat atop the world, oblivious. The applause that eventually erupted was a mere backdrop to the chaos in Jack's heart. He was staring down the barrel of a moral dilemma that rattled his very foundation. The music faded, yet the electric atmosphere remained. Jack found himself transfixed, staring into the depth of Tom's chestnut eyes, once filled with dreams but now shadows of despair. Stripped of his power, Jack was forced to confront an inner vulnerability, a crack in his polished armor. He had always judged worth by wealth. Now what was he? Nothing, a millionaire lost in distorted views. The perfection he prided himself on felt fragile, teetering on the edge of an emotional abyss. Jack felt a weight crash inside him, a desperate cry for change, yet he feared it might be too late. How could he redefine success when he could barely comprehend failure? All he knew was that he was standing at the precipice, the truth unafraid to break him. And with the moment hanging delicately, Jack faced the silent question: could he bridge this divide in their lives, or would he drown amid the chaos of his own making? The aftermath of Tom's performance hung in the air like the final note of a poignant symphony, echoing in Jack's mind. The crowds dispersed slowly, laughter and chatter fading into the background as Jack remained riveted, feeling as if he were stuck within a dream he could not shake. The applause had transformed into a haunting reminder of what he had willfully ignored in the pursuit of wealth, the very essence of human experience, divided by class and ambition. Jack's reflection stared back at him in the glimmering glass walls. He was a king on a crumbling throne, comforted by riches but deprived of meaning. He remembered stories from his childhood about compassion, how empathy could drive revolutions far more potent than greed. But somewhere along the ascent to power, those lessons had soured, consumed by ambition. Questions flooded in: how had he gotten so lost? What was his true purpose? Stepping away from the festivities, he wandered into the dimly lit hallway. An unfamiliar heaviness sat in his gut, and with each step he took, an unexpected clarity came over him. The echo of Tom's music resonated within his chest, imprinting itself on his psyche. As he walked, memories of his own hidden aspirations flickered before him, like shadows entangled in the brilliance of his success. The dream of music, nurtured quietly while he chased after startup ideas, started to resurface, demanding attention. Jack paused, leaning against the wall, swallowing back an unsettling mix of regret and determination. He had mastered the art of business, yet he had allowed the nuances of life to slip by, dismissing them as unworthy distractions. In that passage, it became increasingly clear that success required more than money, it demanded heart. He had built a world on the idea of meritocracy, but now he wondered if he had merely erected barriers against the very people who deserved a chance to shine. Did he have the courage to change? With each mental hurdle, moments of clarity turned into actionable strategies. He resolved to reach out to Tom. What if he could mentor him, give him a platform? Maybe, just maybe, it could lead to something far greater than Jack's fleeting pride. As he envisioned this path, he felt a spark of excitement. It wasn't just about rectifying his past misjudgments, it was about creating opportunities, sharing his resources, and possibly rediscovering his own dormant passions along the way. Emboldened by these thoughts, Jack headed back toward the main event, weaving through clusters of guests still reliving the emotional performance. But as he approached the piano, he spotted Tom slipping out the side door, the remnants of his public vulnerability seemingly behind him. Jack hesitated, adrenaline surging through his veins. Here was the moment, a potential pivot that could transcend both their lives, yet uncertainty gripped him. Would Tom even want his help? His pulse quickened. Now was not the time to slip back into self-doubt. The time had come to face his hesitation, confront the implicit hierarchy that had governed their lives for too long. Jack moved forward, resolving in his heart that he would not let this chance slip away. He called out to Tom just before the door closed, a plea laced with newfound urgency. Tom. As he stepped into the threshold of possibility, Jack realized he could either let fear paralyze him or embrace the unknown. But in that crucial moment, he also understood that he was not just confronting Tom, he was facing himself, all the regrets and possibilities he had buried in his relentless quest for success. What would Tom decide? And would Jack be prepared for the consequences of that choice? Tom. Jack's voice carried through the air, breaking the silence that shrouded the dimly lit hallway. The sound startled Tom, who paused and turned slightly, uncertainty etched across his face. The moment hung heavy between them, electric with unspoken words and shared dreams long tucked away. What do you want, Jack? Tom's tone was cautious, a defensive barrier he had erected quickly against what he perceived as the rich man's encroachment. Jack stepped closer, the distance between them suddenly feeling monumental. I wanted to talk. About your music. His heart pounded, racing alongside the urgency coursing through him. You're incredibly talented, and I think you deserve more than the shadows we've both been living in. Tom's expression shifted, wariness replaced by perhaps a flicker of hope. What do you mean? I mean, Jack inhaled deeply, steadying himself, what if I helped you? I have the means to provide opportunities that could help launch your career. You shouldn't have to struggle the way you have. A torrent of emotions flashed across Tom's face. Confusion, skepticism, then finally, flickers of ambition. Why would you want to do that? What do you get out of it? Jack wrestled with his answer. It was too easy to speak from a sense of guilt or the desire to ease his own discomfort. Because I've never used my resources for something meaningful, he confessed, vulnerability seeping into his voice. I've spent so long focused on wealth that I've neglected the value of passion and connection. I want to be part of something real, to restore my own purpose through helping you realize yours. Tom studied him, weighing Jack's words. The room suddenly felt smaller, and Jack sensed the pivotal nature of this moment. Could he bridge the chasm of their different worlds? Console the unspoken grievances both had endured? What would that even look like? Tom asked. His voice was quieter now, the edge of doubt still there but wavering. I could help create a showcase for you, connect you with people who believe in your talent, Jack explained, each word pulling him further from his past self and deeper into this uncharted territory. Maybe even explore a partnership, some venture that lets you explore opportunities while supporting you financially. We could do something great. A long silence stretched between them, heavy with the ramifications of Jack's proposition. Each second matched the mounting tension within him, a battle against old instincts to retreat to safety. What if this just falls apart? Tom's tone edged on skepticism. What if you get bored, or it feels like charity? Then I fail, Jack replied, undeterred. But you deserve a chance. I've been a coward too long, hiding behind my success instead of stepping into something real. If I falter along the way, I'll take full responsibility. But I need you to trust me. Tom's gaze sharpened, assessing Jack with a newfound intensity. Jack continued to fight against his innate urge to convince, allowing Tom the space to react. Finally, a softening in Tom's demeanor, the flicker of his interest was palpable. I don't know, he began, voice tremulous. I want to believe you, and I want to create. But it's hard for me to step back into a world that has cast me aside. Jack felt the tight knot of fear loosen a bit. They were at an impasse, but he could sense a shift, a burgeoning opportunity not just for Tom, but for himself. Perhaps the music that had once filled his dreams could burst forth again, painted by the vibrancy of shared ambition. Let us try, Jack said, extending an olive branch. We can navigate this together. No risks without full transparency, just two people making a go of it. As Tom considered, Jack realized he had taken a crucial first step towards reclaiming his own lost identity. But he also felt it, the weight of expectation, the potential for both triumph and failure swirling on the precipice of their burgeoning partnership. The moment hung, saturated with possibility. What would Tom decide? Would he embrace the chance Jack offered, or would he let the fear of despair hold him back? Okay, Tom finally breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. But if we're doing this, I need to be involved every step of the way. Jack nodded, heart leaping at Tom's agreement, but trepidation clung to him. Could they truly navigate this new terrain together, or would old fractures shatter their paths once again? The anxiety of the unknown reverberated between them, both aware that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey that could either lead to incredible success or disastrous failure. As they stepped away from the threshold of uncertainty, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was just around the corner, something that would challenge them both in ways they couldn't yet fathom. What awaited them in the world beyond was a question that hung heavily in the air, layered with uncharted challenges and the thrill of potential. Tom stood on the precipice of a decision that could reshape his identity, adrenaline coursing through him. The air crackled with potential as he considered Jack's proposition. How many times had he dreamed of moments like this, only to dismiss them as fantasies? Now, offered a lifeline, could he truly grasp it? With a deep breath, he focused on the empty corridor ahead, its familiarity both comforting and suffocating. All right, let us do it, he finally said, the words tumbling out like an avalanche of pent-up dreams. But I want to start immediately. I want to assess everything, people, plans, venues, make sure this isn't just talk. Jack smiled, a rush of relief filling him. Absolutely. We'll lay everything out. You deserve full transparency. The doubt that had plagued their conversation began to ebb. They were embarking on something real, the stakes were rising, but so was the resolve between them. The first task ahead felt monumental. Building a showcase meant unraveling a web of intricate connections in the music world, something Tom had only seen from the sidelines. He had always been the observer, the janitor dreaming as he swept floors, now thrust into the spotlight's demanding embrace. Would he sink under the pressure or swim towards the surface? Let us meet tomorrow, Jack proposed. I'll compile a list of venues and industry contacts. We can strategize. Tom's heart raced as he acknowledged the magnitude of the challenge ahead. With each step they took away from the hallway, life unfolded in layers, possibilities laced with risks. And we'll need to craft the music, right? I can't just depend on making connections. Precisely, Jack agreed, let your music be the centerpiece. We can start with a few of your best pieces and build from there, tailor them for the audience. The excitement in Jack's voice pulsed with an energy Tom hadn't felt in years. As they parted ways, Tom felt the importance of his next move closing in on him, a thrill and a fear blending indistinctly within. He navigated the familiar streets of his small town with a newfound urgency, eyes darting from storefronts to street lamps as if they held answers he desperately sought. Back at his modest apartment, he sat at the worn piano that had seen countless evenings of his quiet musings. With trembling fingers, he played a few chords, allowing the music to wash over him. Each note resonated with fear and hope, a raw reflection of his inner turmoil. Flashes of memories flooded through him, his gigs at local bars, the laughter of friends, and the painful half-hearted applause that so often felt like a dismissal. Could he really transcend that to become something more? The harmonious progression of sound morphed into a cacophony of uncertainty and aspiration, swirling round his thoughts as he played. He wanted to infuse his songs with authenticity, every lyric a testament to his long-fought battles. As he beat on, Tom realized the deeper he delved into his own soul, the more vulnerable he felt. What if this journey stripped him bare? The thought of exposing himself musically was both exhilarating and terrifying. He stopped abruptly, lifting his hand from the keys as the weight of self-doubt settled in. What if he disappointed Jack? What if the world, upon discovering him, responded not with admiration but with scorn? The reality of their partnership bathed in the light of expectation seemed tremendous. Beneath the thrilling rush of potential lay a truth he had to confront: he often sabotaged his own chances before they could even begin. The quiet tension ignited a storm within him, a deep-seated instinct to retreat back into the shadows rather than risk the burn of rejection. Tom sat there, frozen, grappling with the enormity of stepping forward. He needed to conquer not just the fear of failure but also the ghost of a past that had told him he would never be enough. As his breath steadied, he resolved that the song he composed next would reflect every fear, doubt, and hope he had ever carried. He wouldn't hide from the world, he would face it, the weight of possibility. Transforming into fuel for his creativity, with determination coursing through him, he envisioned the showcase, the lights dimming, the audience buzzing in expectation. Could he summon the courage to step onto that stage and unearth the music trapped inside? The next day, he would share his ideas with Jack, undeterred by insecurity. The road ahead was uncertain, but perhaps that was the very definition of ambition. Outsiders often saw confidence born from success. True strength emerged from the willingness to confront vulnerability. Tomorrow would be crucial. As he closed his eyes, the music echoed in his mind, a promise of potential and a challenge to rise. The time had come to face the first hurdle of a long journey. What awaited him on the other side of that first step felt revolutionary, but also like a tender fracture waiting to heal. His heart raced. They had agreed to embark on this path together, and suddenly, Tom wondered whether he would be up to the task. What awaited him with Jack by his side? Would their combined struggle forge a new reality, or would it fray under the strain? Tom awoke with the weight of anticipation pressing down on him like a leaden blanket. The sunlight streamed through his window, illuminating the dust particles dancing in the air, yet everything felt muted, like a song waiting for its first note. Would this be the day he finally stepped into his potential, or would he let the moment slip through his fingers? His rehearsal with Jack loomed before him, turning ordinary thoughts into spirals of panic. What if he couldn't deliver? What if his ideas were inadequate? Tom wrestled with these intrusive thoughts as he sat in front of his piano. Each chord he struck a defiance against that creeping self-doubt. The night had been restless, filled with dreams that were muddled sketches of stardom effaced by patterns of mediocrity. Why was success reserved for others while he languished in anonymity? He fought against the inner chants demanding he maintain his place as the janitor, a sight unseen, while others soared. Today felt different. It felt like a fork in the road, a potential transformation at his fingertips. Determined to shed the shackles of fear, Tom picked up a pen and opened a notebook, the blank pages taunting him. He scribbled with raw energy to capture both anguish and joy, his lyrics a mirror to his soul. Each line reflected the battle with his own insecurities, revealing a narrative of resilience. The ink flowed like a river that beckoned him forward, urging him to confront who he was behind closed doors. Hours slipped away as Tom crafted melodies infused with emotion. They were not mere sounds, but fragments of his life melded into haunting refrains. He played late into the night, transforming thoughts into anthems, rhythms into resolves. As the notes cascaded from the piano, he began to consider the audience, not just as spectators but as fellow travelers on this journey of vulnerability. When morning arrived, he felt more grounded, for the music embodied a part of him he had left dormant too long. He spent time refining his pieces, aligning his melodies with the heartfelt messages he wished to convey. They were not perfect, but perhaps imperfection was part of the allure, raw and real, igniting the possibility for connection. Meeting with Jack at the small cafe felt monumental. Each table buzzed with conversation, but in Tom's mind, there was only one dialogue, his with Jack. They were not just crafting a show, they were shaping his future. The sense of power that brewed within him shimmered with every promise spoken. "When I lay it all out, I need to be ready," Tom said, feeling the words echo within. Jack nodded, his attentive expression signaling an understanding that transcended the casual. "You've got this, Tom. Nervous energy can fuel creativity. Let us harness it," he reassured, reinforcing the journey they were on. Tom revealed his lyrical compositions, sharing the stories and emotions he had unearthed overnight. He spoke of his childhood, the subtle sting of past failures, and a quiet desperation for acceptance. Each revelation strengthened his resolve, stirring something within Jack, who listened intently, eyes bright with possibility. The pivotal moment arrived as Tom took a deep breath and suggested they take one of the unfinished compositions into full form right here, right now. Jack's smile was encouraging, but inside, Tom could feel the familiar flicker of doubt. What if it falls flat? He thought, panic creeping in once more. He met Jack's encouraging gaze with his own determination unwavering. "Let us start with the chorus. It's about the journey of vulnerability." Everyone else felt it, he declared, heart racing but spirit ignited. As they hashed out ideas, their collaboration transcended mere strategies. It was a symphony of inspiration, where two minds intertwined in pursuit of a dream. The music they crafted together resonated deeply with Tom, reinforcing the significance of taking that leap. Later, as he returned to his apartment, Tom felt restless energy surging within, a potent mixture of uncertainty and excitement. Just before he slept, he noticed a familiar echo of fear whispering doubt into the shadows of his mind. Would Jack remain unwavering during challenging moments? The prospect of their shared venture loomed over him, the edge of despair occasionally glimmered with potential. He lay in bed, wrestling with vivid images of performing. What if their ambitious plans unraveled? The idea sent chills racing down his spine, yet amidst the fear, a whisper of resolve surfaced. If he could only push through the doubt, greatness awaited. Tom closed his eyes, and an image solidified in his mind. The stage illuminated, his heart thrumming to the rhythm of hope. He could hear the murmurs of an audience, their faces hidden, but their energy palpable. Tomorrow held potential, yet uncertainty loomed thick as he anticipated a testing tomorrow with Jack. Would he rise, or would he let his dreams dissolve into the echoes of missed opportunities? Beneath the resolute uncertainty, a deep chill crept in. What if the reality he envisioned shattered against the cold, harsh walls of doubt? Would he ever discover the depth of his own music, or was it destined to remain unplayed, locked away in fear? The morning sun pierced through the blinds, casting jagged stripes across Tom's disheveled bed. Last night's images of the stage lingered, blurring the line between reality and aspiration. He tossed the covers aside, a flurry of urgency igniting within him. Today was no ordinary day, it was a promise, the test of courage that could either cement his place in the musical landscape or push him back into obscurity. As he prepared breakfast, clumsily pouring cereal into a bowl, the weight of his decision loomed large. Tom couldn't afford to let his moment of reckoning slip into the abyss of hesitation. Every bite felt heavy, yet each one was laced with determination. He recalled Jack's words, "Nervous energy can fuel creativity." It was time to transform that energy into something tangible. With his mind racing, Tom grabbed his notebook. The pages, filled with lyrics that vibrated with his hopes and fears, were a testament to his growth. Each lyric was an ode to his journey from the shadows of self-doubt to the dawning light of possibility. But possessiveness over his creations lingered, threatening to chain him to the past. Could he relinquish control, open his heart, and let the music flow unimpeded? As he walked towards the rehearsal space, Tom's pulse quickened. Every step evoked memories of days spent cleaning floors, a silent witness to dreams dancing above him. The thought tugged at him with both affection and bitterness. How many evenings had he tuned out the beauty of his own aspirations while sweeping away the dreams of others? Now, he was on the brink of revealing himself. No more anonymity. No more hiding. Once inside the studio, he found Jack adjusting microphones, embodying the very enthusiasm Tom sought to harness. There was an unmistakable camaraderie in the air, yet Tom felt a magnetism pulling at his insecurities. What if I falter? What if my story isn't worth sharing? These thoughts threatened to drown him. Hey, you ready? Jack's voice broke through Tom's spiraling thoughts. I think so, Tom replied, uncertainty tinged with excitement. Let's channel that, Jack encouraged, his demeanor radiating a confidence that jolted Tom forward. They situated themselves at the piano, all hurdles crossed, now united in purpose. Tom closed his eyes for a moment, succumbing to the rhythm of his breathing. He placed his fingers on the cool keys, and as he played the first chords, an inexplicable energy surged through him. Notes spiraled out, illuminating the warped corners of his fears and illuminating resilience in raw, melodic tones. The music transformed from hesitant whispers to a bold proclamation. Every chord carried a heartbeat, a message reverberating not just inside the studio, but echoing out into the void of his past. Jack cheered, their spirits interwoven. That's it. Keep going, let it out. The fear that once gripped Tom dissipated, replaced by an emerging sense of identity. He was no longer the janitor clearing the mess. He was an artist feeding into the passions and dreams that had festered beneath the surface for years. His fingers danced across the keys, guiding Jack into harmonies that complemented his story. As the melody reached its climax, Tom surrendered completely, realizing it was not just about him, it was about vulnerability, connection, and truth. This performance was a mirror reflecting not only his journey but the common struggles shared by many. The song became a balm, soothing the parts of himself he had once neglected, but just when the elation began to settle, a nagging thought crept back. What awaited on the other side of this moment? Would he manage to sustain this inspiration, or was it just a fleeting glimpse of what could be? The weight of the stakes felt heavier as they finished the piece. He looked at Jack and saw a glimmer of disbelief mingled with hope, an echo of his own longing. There was no turning back now. Euphoria or failure, either way, it's time to reveal who I am, Tom murmured. He knew that this fledgling experience marked only the beginning, yet as he relinquished his fingers from the keys, a new dread settled in. If they were to share this music with the world, would the audience embrace it? Or would his truth be met with laughter and scorn, steeped in the very insecurities he sought to eradicate? Tomorrow unfolded as a further test, an uncharted territory where his vulnerabilities would be laid bare. What awaited him out there, beyond the music, loomed like a specter, undeniably intimidating yet thrilling. The moment of reckoning beckoned, and uncertainty loomed as thick as night. Would he stand firm and face the applause or the jeers? Would he become what he dreamed, or simply dissolve back into another echo of regret? The hours crept by, each one laden with a mix of anticipation and dread. Tom could hardly sleep, the rhythm of his heart pounding like a metronome, beating out an intricate pattern of anxiety and excitement. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the notebook filled with his lyrics, the pages beckoning him like an invitation to a dance floor, yet he hesitated. This was no ordinary performance, it was the unveiling of his very soul. When the morning light broke once more, it illuminated his resolve. Today wasn't just another day, it was a pivotal chapter in his life. He felt a tinge of empowerment surging through him. The time had come for him to confront the shadow of doubt that had loomed over him for years. He was no longer just Tom the janitor. He was Tom the artist, a transformation he had barely begun to comprehend. After a rushed breakfast, he took a different route to the studio, choosing to walk through a park where street performers filled the air with spontaneous melodies. Each note floated around him, engulfing him in a sea of artistry that resonated with his newly awakened identity. He paused to observe a woman playing the violin, lost in her world. The pure emotions etched on her face reminded him that vulnerability was not a weakness but a profound strength. The realization ignited a flicker of inspiration as he continued toward the studio. Upon arrival, he found Jack already setting up for the rehearsal, exuding an infectious enthusiasm. "You're here. I was worried you'd get lost in your head," Jack exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with optimism. "I almost did. But I'm ready," Tom replied, feeling a rush of adrenaline. As they gathered around the piano, Tom forced himself to confront the swell of insecurity still lurking beneath his excitement. He watched Jack intently, seeing how effortlessly his friend moved between notes. Tom understood there was a difference between playing a song and pouring one's heart into it. The thin line separating his true self from his public persona was about to be tested. "Let's start with what we did yesterday," Jack said, and as they began to play, Tom realized he was not just rehearsing, he was unveiling a part of himself that had long remained hidden. With each chord he struck, he asked himself what he was truly afraid of. It wasn't the fear of failure that paralyzed him. It was the fear of not being seen for who he was, the stories he carried, the truths he wanted to share. As they moved through the song, the familiar notes of his creation began to envelop him, each one weaving a thread into a tapestry of self-discovery. The pain of past rejection and isolation tangled with notes of hope and aspiration. He felt walls within him crumbling. The more they played, the more Tom began to shed layers of his armor, revealing not just a song, but a narrative steeped in his own fears and triumphs. Then, in the middle of a flourish, Tom paused, struck by an epiphany. "Maybe it's not about the audience at all, but about me embracing my own story." The realization struck deeper than any chord ever could. "Are you all right?" Jack asked, concern etched on his face. "I am. No matter what happens." Tom exhaled, allowing the exhilarating sensation of truth to wash over him. "I need to own this moment. This song is my voice." With renewed vigor, Tom plunged back into the music, pouring everything he had into their performance. The sound swelled, carrying an energy that danced with a live spontaneity. The fear of judgment began to dissolve, replaced by a burgeoning certainty that perhaps through revealing his story, he would inspire others to do the same. As they finished, Tom felt exhilarated yet breathless. The room pulsed with tension, and what awaited next felt electric, suspended in the air like an unresolved chord. Would this newfound revelation embolden him enough to face the scrutiny of others? His heart raced at the prospect of sharing his truth with an audience, a reminder that the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. "Are you ready for tonight?" Jack asked, his voice a mixture of encouragement and challenge. Tom could only nod, for now exiting his comfort zone meant stepping into the unknown, the final frontier of his journey. And yet, as fear gripped him once more, another feeling surfaced. He wasn't just stepping into that performance, he was about to step into a deeper knowing of himself. An undeniable reckoning awaited. Would he emerge as the artist he had dreamed to be, past doubts finally vanquished? In that moment of contemplation, one thought loomed: this was only the beginning, and he could no longer pretend to be anything less than he was meant to be. With a breath of resolve, he felt that there was no turning back, only forward. But the question remained, lingering in the air like a haunting note: what kind of reception awaited him on the other side? As he prepared for what lay ahead, the true test approached. Would he take the stage as a warrior of his own narrative, embracing every part of himself? Tom inhaled deeply, the sharp scent of wood polish mingling with the lingering echoes of their last rehearsal. He stepped away from the piano, his heart still racing. The weight of what was to come settled on his shoulders like an oppressive blanket. Tonight, as he would stand before an audience for the first time as an artist, He felt both exhilarating freedom and a paralyzing dread twist within him. As he paced the dim studio, he replayed the lyrics in his head, memories flooding back to when he first scribbled them down, a cathartic release born from that suffocating janitorial closet. Each word had been a secret, a part of him he hadn't dared voice until now. Yet there he was, in the shadow of Jack's unwavering confidence, grappling with an inner voice that whispered doubts louder than the applause he silently hoped for. "Hey," Jack's voice pulled him back to the present. "You look like you're about to explode. What is going on in that head of yours?" Tom hesitated, instinctively retreating behind a wall he had vowed to break down. "I'm just thinking about how I'll be perceived," he confessed, each word heavy with the gravity of his vulnerability. "What if they don't like it? What if they only see the janitor?" The concern etched on Jack's face softened. "But they might also see you as more than that. Tonight, you're not just a janitor. You're an artist. You write from a place of truth that can resonate with so many people." Jack leaned in closer, his eyes intense. "This is your moment, Tom. You're unleashing the real you. Don't let the fear of judgment steal that from you." At that moment, another layer of hesitation peeled away. Jack wasn't just a friend, he was a mirror reflecting Tom's potential. Yet, another thought gnawed at him: what if Jack was wrong? What if no one cared about the story he had to tell? "I'm scared that sharing my story won't make a difference," Tom admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if the world doesn't want to hear it?" Silence hung between them, thick and potent, each man wrestling with the weight of unspoken vulnerabilities. Tom reflected on the woman in the park he had observed. She had poured herself into her music without hesitation. Was it truly enough to just have something to say? Did the authenticity of one's truth matter, regardless of the audience's response? As he stood there, a realization crystallized within him. It wasn't the audience's validation he was after, it was the act of unburdening himself. The performance was not merely a showing of talent, but an opportunity to stand in his truth, to exist beyond his former identity. "Maybe it's not about being liked," he said slowly, cutting through the tension. "Maybe it's about being real." Jack nodded, a grin breaking across his face. "Exactly. You've got this. Just think about how far you've come. You're about to show the world something incredible." The adrenaline pumped through Tom's veins once more, and he felt a flicker of hope. They spent the next couple of hours fine-tuning the arrangement and rehearsing the transitions, each note bolstering Tom's growing confidence. When it finally came time for final preparations, he felt an unfamiliar steadiness in his chest. He glanced at the clock and felt the urgency. It would soon be showtime. The studio door creaked open, and in walked a couple of familiar faces from his past, each one a specter of doubt. He had worked hard to escape the same peers who had once underestimated him. His stomach churned at the sight. Suddenly, the freedom he had felt began to falter, as the specter of judgment reared its ugly head once more. Would they only remember him as the janitor? He swallowed hard, pressed back against doubt as he faced them, steeling himself for the performance ahead. As he walked toward the stage, he felt an electrifying pulse urging him on, a cry for authenticity, a chance to leave his past self behind. With each step, he resolved to reclaim his narrative, to stand tall in his truth, no longer influenced by those who belittled him. But as the lights dimmed and the audience hushed, one question took hold: would they truly witness him for who he had become, or would the echoes of his past shackle him in silence? This was it, the boundary between fear and courage was about to be tested in a way he had never imagined. Would he step into the light or back into the shadows as the curtain rose? Tom inhaled one last time, gathering every ounce of determination he had. The moment of truth loomed, potent with possibilities and fraught with doubt. As the first notes of the piano reverberated in the hushed room, Tom felt a surge of adrenaline course through him. The familiar melody unleashed emotions he had tucked away for too long. Each chord was a message, a declaration of his journey, his struggles, and his triumphs. He let his fingers glide over the keys, allowing the music to intertwine with his breath, merging art and authenticity into one. With every note, he released the burdens carried from his past. The weight of his identity as a janitor melted away, erased by each resonance that filled the air. In that moment it wasn't just a performance, it was redemption. He glanced briefly at Jack, whose face was a mask of encouragement, pushing Tom to delve deeper into his expression. As he continued, the faces from his past transformed in his mind. They began to fade, no longer representing judgment but merely an audience acknowledging his existence, his story. He thought of the woman in the park, the spark ignited by her uninhibited expression. Her example redefined his understanding of vulnerability. Was it truly about how the audience would judge him? Or was it simply about sharing his truth and allowing it to resonate with others, whether they clapped or not? He started singing, the lyrics flowing from him like a river bursting free of its dam. The message was raw, stark. There were mentions of pain, hope, and the desire to be seen beyond the superficial labels assigned to him. He felt a flicker of fear when he thought about how his song might be perceived. Yet, as he folded his heart into the melody, he realized that his redemption was not contingent upon their approval, it existed solely in his willingness to be real. The crowd erupted into applause when he concluded, a wave of sound that both shocked and exhilarated him. Did they understand? Did it matter? He stood frozen, absorbing the cheers and claps, witnessing the energy bouncing off the walls around him. That was validation, a moment distilled into a snapshot of pure emotion, but even amidst this newfound energy, a flicker of doubt lingered at the back of his mind. The familiar faces still existed, and he feared they might return to haunt him. Perhaps tonight was just a fleeting moment of clarity, easily overshadowed by past perceptions. As he left the stage, exhilarated but wary, Tom was approached by a few audience members. Their praise was effusive, an unexpected balm to his worries. Yet, one figure remained at the edge of the crowd, a man wearing an expensive suit and an inscrutable expression. He had been one of the judgmental peers from Tom's past. That man had always embodied everything Tom resented about his previous life, and now he stood before him, arms crossed, a smirk on his lips. "Impressive, for a janitor," he said, the words dripping with condescension. "But do you really think you can break out of that life?" A chill snaked through Tom. Behind those words sat entitlement and disregard layered thick. He felt a spark of anger rise within him. Was he to allow this man to diminish what he had just accomplished? Tom took a breath, grounding himself. "More than you'll ever know." He stepped away from the man, refusing to let the shadows of his past smother his triumph. Yet, a new sense of urgency bubbled up. This moment had ignited something in him that yearned for more, a challenge that awaited, a deliberate confrontation obscured by years. Could he confront this man about the implications of his words? Was it time to dismantle the pedestal others had placed him on and stand fully in his power? As the night wore on, Tom's mind buzzed with questions that needed answers. Stepping out of the building, he glanced back at the stage, the spotlight still glowing softly behind him. In that fleeting moment, he sensed that this was just the beginning of confronting not only those who doubted him but perhaps, even deeper, confronting the parts of himself that lingered in doubt. But what would it mean to challenge the very notion of who he once was? All outside pressures now felt like mere distractions. He had touched the essence of being an artist. It was time to face the next hurdle. As he walked down the dimly lit street, a quiet determination solidified within him. The pursuit of his truth had only just commenced. What new adversities lay ahead that would force him to redefine who he was and who he could become? In the days that followed that electrifying night, Tom found himself bathed in newfound energy, a poignant sense of purpose coursing through him. The applause still echoed in his ears, but it was the journey of self-discovery that truly resonated. He was no longer defined solely by the title of janitor. He was an emerging artist, a storyteller who had managed to strike a chord with an audience eager to hear his truth. As he settled into this new chapter, inspiration beckoned relentlessly. Tom spent hours writing and composing, his old piano now a sanctuary where melodies flowed like an uncontainable river. He embraced the rawness of his voice, giving life to tales of transformation and the power of vulnerability. Each note became a declaration, articulating everything he had once feared to express: the torment of judgment, the hunger for acceptance, and the fierce desire to own his narrative. Jack remained a pillar of support, encouraging Tom while forging connections in the music industry. Together, they arranged sessions that bridged Tom's experiences with the broader world. Networking became an exhilarating yet daunting task as Tom met varying personalities, those supportive, and others steeped in skepticism. Yet through it all, he learned to advocate for himself. No longer was he merely a shadow, he was stepping into the spotlight armed with conviction and confidence. Months passed, transforming the fear of failure into tenacity. Tom found himself invited to perform at small venues, coffee shops, and even local festivals. Each engagement piled layers upon his evolving identity, unraveling the past he had once allowed to shackle him. Now, as he graced each stage, he confidently delivered songs infused with vulnerability and authenticity, proof of the metamorphosis he embraced. Then came the fateful day of an audition for a regional music showcase, a stepping stone that could catapult him into broader recognition. Tom walked into the venue, a gleaming modern space filled with aspiring talents and hopeful performers. He paused at the threshold and took a breath, drawing on the strength he had garnered through countless rehearsals and passionate performances. This wasn't just another opportunity, it was affirmation of who he had become, a courageous voice, steadfast and true. When his name was called, he stepped onto the stage as if it belonged to him. A swell of nerves rose, threatening to swerve him back into the shadows. But he met that fear head-on, recalling the powerful messages woven through his lyrics. He had conquered the doubts that had tethered him. It was time to soar. As he performed, each chord resonated with the depths of his soul, and with every word he sang, an echo of his past faded. He felt liberated, no longer shrinking in the face of judgment but standing firm, unyielding against the tide of criticism. The audience was captivated, their faces illuminated, reflecting the connection forged between them through shared experience. When the final note faded, a thunderous applause erupted. Tom could scarcely believe it. This was recognition, praise not just for the artist he had become but for the person he had fought to unveil. As he left the stage, exhilaration coursed through him, electrifying every inch of his being. In a matter of hours, he received an email, a whirlwind of dreams realized. He had secured a spot in a mentorship program led by industry leaders, setting the stage for what could be a defining trajectory in his personal and professional life. That night, reflecting on everything he had achieved, Tom smiled. He was no longer the janitor who had doubted his worth. He had risen through the clutter of self-imposed limitations to meet his destiny as an artist. His acceptance into the program marked more than just a professional milestone, it was the culmination of a journey of triumph over fear and embracing vulnerability. Tom understood now that transformation stemmed not just from external validation but from inner strength, the power to define oneself through passion, artistry, and relentless resilience. He stood ready to take on the challenges that lay ahead, armed with the belief that his story was worthy of being shared with the world. This was the moment he had yearned for, a promise sealed with the weight of his truth. Whatever awaited him on this new path, he felt equipped to face it because the artist he had become was deeply rooted in the courage that emerged from his past struggles. Don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support, it truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about Tom's incredible journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support this channel if you believe in the power of personal overcoming stories.